Hello everyone. So in today's lesson, so on number 71, it's asking you to think about what the word radian reminds you of. So go ahead and think about it for a second. Write down your ideas. There's no right or wrong answer. Pause the video, and then we'll continue with the activity on number 72. Okay, so on number 72, it gives you directions on how to construct a radian. So the very first thing is you need a couple of materials. You need some paper. If you have construction paper or cardstock, it'll make it a little bit easier when you start doing your tracing. But if you don't, it's fine. Just any regular sheet of paper will work. And then find at least 2 different things in your house that are circular. So it could be a plate or a bowl or the bottom of your water bottle. As long as it's a circle, we need 2 different size shapes. So pause the video, go hunt down some circles. All right, so the first thing is we're going to trace your circular object onto a sheet of paper and carefully cut out the circle. So I already did that. So I used just a circle, a tape. So I traced it. Here's my circle. And then I did it again because you are going to need to. So I did them in 2 different colors just because I have one that's cardstock and one's easier to fold. Okay, so you should have at least 1 circular object. I'm gonna do 2 just so that we can see the different sizes. So I did it again, but I did it for the inside. So notice that it's smaller. It's smaller than the outer part. So I'll start with the bigger one. So you're gonna fold it in half. Fold it in half again. And now you have a quarter of the circle. What part of this is the radius? Okay, so I'll even put it right here. It's a little bit more obvious, right? Or this side. So there's your radius. My shaded side, that's my radius. And I'm gonna wrap it around the edge of my object and mark it on my paper. So here's my paper, and then I'm gonna wrap it around and start marking the edges. So I'm wrapping it around like this, and then I mark it. Okay, so I'm gonna start and then I'll show you my markings. Okay, so notice I just did a little tick mark. So I started here and then I wrapped it around and it marked right there. So now from that mark, I'm gonna wrap it around 1 more time. And remember, it's the shaded part, your radius part. So I'm gonna wrap it around 1 more time. And then I'm just gonna keep doing this all the way until I go around the circle. And you're gonna notice something. So this is this is where I started. And then I started going around. So here's 1, 2, 3, right? I kind of folded it a little bit so that I can see where the center is. And then I'm gonna mark the center. And I make the lines to those markings. Every one of those slices is called a radian. So this is 1 radian. Oh, it shows it backwards on your side. So it says 1 radian. Okay. Now, if I do that all the way around, notice that I have all of these radians. Look at what happens. You have all of these radians, and then you have one little slice that's not a full radian. Okay, and we'll talk about why that happens in just a second. So the very last part about this problem is, so how did we make one of these little slices? What did we do? Just do a quick little sentence or two of how you constructed 1 radian. So now for the next part, we are going to use what we know from geometry to figure out what's happening here with these radians. So on number 73, it says, assume the radius of a circle is 1 unit. Okay, so you have a circle and it has a radius of 1. So I'm just going to draw a little circle so that we can see. It has radius, oh my gosh, my marker is so thick, a radius of 1. Okay, so let's write down the formulas for the area of a circle and the circumference of a circle. Is pi r squared, and the circumference is 2 pi r. So if I know the radius is 1, then the area is equal to pi 1 squared, which gives you pi. That's the area of the circle. Now what about the circumference? So circumference is equal to 2 pi r, which is 1, which gives me 2 pi. Okay, so that means all the way around the circle, it's 2 pi. Now, for part C, it says how many radii would it take to wrap completely around the circle? Now, most of you, even if we had 2 different sized circles, all of you should have had the exact same amount of radius. Or radians, sorry. So I had 6 radians, but it wasn't 6 radians exactly. It was about 6 radians, or I can say approximately, and then what is that, like 6, like 6.3 radians maybe. Okay. Now on part D, it's asking us, does the size of the circle matter? Well, your circle is probably not the same as my circle. So did you get the same thing? Okay. So go ahead and take a couple minutes, answer part D, and then we'll move on to part E. Okay, now part E is asking us, how many radians are in 360 degrees? Well, remember that 360 degrees is all the way around the circle. So if it's 360 degrees all the way around the circle, well, isn't that the same thing as the circumference? So what did we find the circumference to be? 2 pi. From right here. Right? So if it's 2 pi or 2 pi all the way around, well, what about 90 degrees? So here's 90 degrees. If it's 2 pi all the way around, go ahead and calculate what would 90 degrees be in radians? Or what would 180 degrees be? So notice that 180 degrees is half of the circle. So 2 pi would be half of that. So that means pi is right here. Okay, well then how do I figure out 90 degrees? What is this going to be? And then what is this going to be? So take a couple minutes, fill in those missing halves. Okay, now this very last part, number 75, I just want you to draw each angle on its own unit circle. Okay, so remember that degrees and radians are different. Degrees are tiny. If you look at this, like one little degree, it's going to be small. So we're going to do a couple of these together, and then the rest you'll do on your own. So 1 degree is tiny. So if I'm in degrees, it's like one barely small angle right there. That would be 1 degree. Now remember that 1 radian has the size of the radius of the circle. Okay, remember it has that radius length on the circle. So the radius is about this big. So I need that to be maybe like right there. So this angle is 1 radian. Okay. Now pi radians. Remember that 2 pi is all the way around the circle. So we talked about where is pi. So yes, so pi would be right here. So pi is flat. Good. Okay. Now these are just like slices of a pie. So they're fractions. So you're just working on how do you find the fraction of 2 pi. So the whole circle is 2 pi. You're trying to figure out what are those slices of pi. Okay, and then you're going to figure out where is pi over 2. Where's pi over 4? Where's pi over 3? Where's pi over 6? Okay, and here's the last part. We're just going to work on converting. Now, notice that what I want you guys to notice is I want you to use the conversion. Since we know that 2 pi is 360 degrees, you can use, if you divide this by 2, you can use the fact that pi is equal to 180. Okay, so if you're trying to go from radians to degrees or degrees from to radians, you're going to be using this ratio, but it depends on whether you're going to use pi over 180 or 180 over pi, depending on whether you're going from degrees to radians or radians to degrees. So for example, I'm going to take all of these angles and I'm going to change them into radians. So they're going from degrees to radians. So if I want to change 30 degrees into radians, I'm going to multiply it times my ratio so that I can cancel out the degrees. So that means I'm going to have pi over 180 degrees. So to simplify this, notice that I have 30 over 180. 30 over 180, I can cross out my zeros, and then I can divide the top and the bottom by 3 to simplify my fraction. So this one would give me pi over 6. So 30 degrees is pi over 6. Okay, so you can fill it in here and you can fill it in on your chart. These two are the same. Now the next one is 60 degrees, so same way. 60 degrees times pi over 180. I've got zeros that I can cancel out there, and then I can divide both of these by 3. No, by 6. So that gives me pi over 3. So this one would be pi over 3. And that's it. So just keep going and complete the rest of the table. All right, so that's all for this lesson. Make sure that if you guys have questions, you can always send me a message on Remind or Google Classroom or email me.